Hi everyone, welcome to Aquatics by Nature and the updated version of my very first pruning video. Today I'm going to show you some of the very basic, simple techniques that I use for maintaining this tank in terms of just trimming and removing excess plant growth. The first plant that I'm going to come to today is the free-floating water lettuce, Pistia stratioides, which, as you can see, there's quite a lot of floating on the surface at the moment in this tank. Rather too much in actual fact, but it's an incredibly easy plant to actually thin out, because literally all you do, as you can see, is simply remove the excess growth. It's a very straightforward process. I always try and do this nice and gently though, so as not to disturb the fish too much in the process. But water lettuce is an extremely good plant in many respects. Not only does it give your fish a bit of cover, which makes them feel more secure, but it's extremely good at sucking out nitrates and, in fact, preventing nitrates and things like that building up in the first place. And it's one of the main reasons that I'm able to run this tank without any water changes. It just simply sucks up all the harmful things from the water, and then when I remove the excess plant, I'm actually removing those waste products at the same time. It's just a very easy way of managing a tank. Saves you chucking buckets of water everywhere, and it's very straightforward. Nice and easy. The next plant I'm going to come to today is the Ambulia, which is the sort of feathery plant you can see that I'm actually messing around with at the moment. This Limnophila sessiliflora, for those who like the scientific names. Again, it's an extremely easy plant to actually maintain. All I actually do is I let the stems grow right up to the surface, as you can see, and perhaps bend over a little bit. But then again, they start to cut out a little bit too much light, so it's time to do a bit of thinning out. So all I literally do, which you can sort of see at the moment, is I put my hand right down to the base of the plant where the actual runner is, and I just nip it off at the bottom, and then just very gently again remove it so as not to disturb the fish too much. The advantage of this is it means that I never have to actually dig up the roots. So if you notice, while I'm putting these plants up, I'm not really stirring the tank up at all. That's because there's no gravel disturbance involved. I'm literally just nipping off the plant stems that are too tall. It's just, say, a very simple way. I don't actually particularly manage where the plant grows either. Because this plant grows on runners, it just gradually wanders around the tank, and all I do is remove the stems that actually just become too big or too out of control. They also just get a little bit dense sometimes, so sometimes I'll just remove a few stems just to sort of thin it out. Again, a bit like the water lettuce, it's quite a fast growing plant, so again it's a very good plant for removing nitrates and preventing nitrates and that kind of thing again. And exactly the same again as the water lettuce, it'll do wonders for your water quality in terms of removing those nitrates and things, and again just helps to sort of basically saves me from having to do any water changes actually in the tank at all. But these literally just keep going and gradually removing the stems one by one. And as you can see, I'm sort of selecting which stem I fancy removing, and so just gently nip them off at the base and then just gently lift them out. Really as simple as that. And I've been doing that in this tank for almost as long as I can remember. Sometimes it's extremely full of this plant, and other times there's just a few little bits of it in the tank. It just depends on where I've actually pulled it out and where I haven't. And some of you may remember actually a couple of weeks ago that the tank had just a very small amount of this plant on the right hand side, and you can see now that I'm removing it, the plant is actually gradually wandering towards the left where the sort of crinkled onion plant is. And probably in a month or so's time, when you see the tank, you'll probably find it's all at the left-hand end and nothing at the right-hand end. I literally just let it evolve. I don't force it or replant it in any way. I don't like disturbing the substrate anyway, and it's just very easy to do. Now you can see I'm removing some of the guppy grass, which is the Nadias guadalupensis, for those that like the names. In a similar vein, it's a very easy plant. I've just only nipped off an odd piece in here because there's not that much of it at the moment. But again, it's another very useful sort of plant in the tank. They all help it along. Yeah, I think that's basically all you need to know about the very basic maintenance that I'm doing on this tank here. It's basically, you also find that a lot of what I do is actually based around trying to keep things really as simple as possible and not to disturb things as much or as little as possible, rather. You'll notice all the plants that I choose to grow in this tank are all incredibly easy plants to grow. I don't grow anything complicated. I like tanks that are really simple and easy to maintain. And one of the main things is to choose the right plants that enable me to do this. I mean, I actually have 4 criteria in mind whenever I choose a plant for a tank. They basically have to perform a specific function. For example, the ones that we've shown today, their main function really is to remove the nitrates and the harmful substances from the water so that I don't have to do water changes. They also, sort of criteria number 2, if you like, is they have to be easy to grow. And then the third one, they have to be simple to maintain. So there's no fiddly maintenance. I don't like plants that, stem plants for example, that you have to constantly nip out or pull out and then cut the tops off and actually keep replanting them all the time. To me, that's just a lot of unnecessary disturbance. It's also an awful lot of work. At the end of the day, I like sitting and watching my fish. I don't like spending hours and hours actually maintaining and fiddling around. I just like the way that tanks evolve naturally and how the plants grow in different places, and you know, it's a never-ending sort of changing sort of landscape, or aquascape as you might say. But so the last criteria that I have is that I don't like disturbing the substrate on the tank. I always like to keep the substrate intact. So the idea of constantly digging up and transplanting or replanting plants is something that I avoid at pretty much all cost, really. It's not something that I like to do. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to say on that little subject for today. If you want to know more about how I maintain these plants so naturally, without water changes or fertilisers, I'd be eternally grateful as always if you subscribe and give me a like. And if you'd like to help the channel grow further, please share as well. That would always be handy. I also have lots of playlists on this tank if you'd like to have a look. But most importantly, enjoy your aquarium. Don't be a slave to it. Thanks for watching. Once again, I'll let this video continue on for those that like watching the fish.